Good evening, everybody, and welcome in the audience, and welcome those watching at home to the September 2017 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors meeting. First up, I will give the invocation, followed. I would like to have a moment of silence for former Supervisor Greg Meidel, who passed away late last week. County Executive Ziegelbauer informed the board today that on Thursday we'll have, as we do with supervisors who have passed, the flag will be raised, lowered to half staff. And hopefully next month we'll have a proclamation in honoring his service. So if everybody please rise. Let us pray. Almighty God, the giver of all good things, we humbly come before thee to seek thy blessing and thy guidance. Shed the light of thy presence on your deliberations. Guide and direct us in the many decisions we must make. Save us from the discord and the selfish purposes. Unite our hearts and minds to serve according to thy will and to accomplish the best interests of all our citizens. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to hand this back to you. You can put it back in the archives. Thank you very much. Roll call is going around. 23 members are present. Supervisor Wagner is excused, and I think Supervisor Hanson might be at a late football practice, so hopefully he will be on his way as soon as the lights come on. So hopefully he's on his way. Hopefully everything is going well. Next up will be consideration and correction of the minutes from our August 15, 2017 board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Holzbach to approve those minutes. Any discussion on the motion? See none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried, and the minutes are approved. Next up, additions or deletions to the agenda, and if I know correctly, I don't think there's anything, correct?
There are
Lois?
no amendments, additions, or deletions to this meeting notice.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it rarely happens, we don't need any motion to approve the agenda because it's already approved. Correct, Peter? Correct. All right, so we're all set on that. And there's our football hero. We were waiting for you. Supervisor Hanson has arrived, so we have 24 members present. Thank you very much. All right, next up will be reports of county supervisors, officers, and department directors. And if I could have County Executive Ziegelbauer come up to the podium, we're going to first start up with a proclamation recommending Crystal Seamers Peterman as Allison Dairyland. Crystal, if you could come up to the podium as well, that would be great. Hello? There we go. Perfect. Thank you very much for that little delay. We have a proclamation honoring Crystal as the 2017 Allison Dairyland. So I'll read the proclamation, and I'm sure Crystal will have a few words to say. Whereas the prestigious Allison Dairyland program administered by the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection is celebrating 7 decades of advocacy on behalf of Wisconsin's dairy industry. And Manitowoc County's own Crystal Seamers Peterman was crowned the 70th Allison Dairyland earlier this year. And whereas Crystal Seamers Peterman found her passion for Wisconsin's diverse agricultural industry on her family's registered Holstein dairy farm in Cleveland. And she has been actively involved for a long time promoting the dairy industry with her involvement in groups such as the Manitowoc County Junior Holstein Association, Wisconsin Junior Holstein Association, Manitowoc County 4-H, and she represented Wisconsin at all national competitions in both the Dairy Quiz Bowl and dairy judging competitions. And whereas Crystal Seamers Peterman has prepared for her role as Wisconsin's agricultural ambassador with a major in agriculture and food business management and a minor in marketing from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. And she will spend a year of educating audiences across Wisconsin on the $88.3 billion economic impact and importance of our state's diverse agricultural industry. And whereas the Manitowoc County is proud of Crystal Seamers-Peterman, earned her spot in this prestigious program, and honored to have her crowned as Manitowoc County's first Alice in Dairyland. Now, therefore, we, Bob Ziegelbauer, County Executive, and Jim Bry, County Board Chairperson, along with the County Board of Supervisors, hereby honor Wisconsin's 70th Alice in Dairyland, Crystal Seamers-Peterman of Manitowoc County, and wish her well on her continued advocacy for the vital pillar of our local economy.
Well, good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Crystal Seamers-Peterman, and I'm serving as the 70th Alice in Dairyland, Wisconsin's Agriculture Ambassador. It is an honor to join you all tonight, as this is my home county that I'm proud to call home. I grew up in Cleveland, and I'm lucky enough to be the 6th generation on my family's dairy and crop farm. Manitowoc County has always been a major part of my life. I was born here, I attended the county fair each and every year, and I know what restaurants to recommend. And whenever I'm in the area, you might see my vehicle. It's got 2 giant corn cobs on the side, filling up with E85 at the local Quick Trip and getting Starbucks too. Agriculture has always been a major part of my life, as I proudly call myself a farm kid. From a young age, I always had a fascination with the milk truck. As I'd watch it drive away, I always wondered where my family's milk would end up. Perhaps on my neighbor's table, halfway across the globe in a whey product, turned into butter, and maybe even, perhaps, in an award-winning Wisconsin cheese. That curiosity set the stage for my adventure in agriculture. Just like the long-standing tradition and hard work and dedication through the members of the Manitowoc County Board, agriculture in Wisconsin is a long-standing tradition as well. From growing wheat and being the nation's breadbasket to now becoming America's Dairyland, our state has evolved and diversified in its agriculture endeavors throughout the years. It is my pleasure to represent Wisconsin agriculture each and every day. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the program, but for those who are not, Alice in Dairyland is a 1-year, full-time contract position through the State Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Each day, I get to share the many messages about Wisconsin's diverse agriculture industry through TV interviews, radio interviews, social media posts, and conversations. And to give you a glimpse of what even today looked like, I started my day with a TV interview in Eau Claire, worked my way over to Wausau area for a mink farm tour, something that Wisconsin is very proud of, and then now I'm here. So, always busy, but that's the way I like it. The role of Alice in Wisconsin's agriculture industry has really changed over the years. When the program started in 1948, it was more of a beauty contest, and Alice traveled nationally. Dairy queens from each county competed for the ultimate title of Alice in Dairyland. Previous Alices have presented Willie Nelson with a Something Special from Wisconsin t-shirt, and one special Alice met Arnold Schwarzenegger while promoting Wisconsin dairy in California. The selection process has changed over the years and now involves a 3-day interview. During my year as a 70th Alice, I will travel approximately 40,000 miles across the state, focusing on promoting Wisconsin agriculture within our state. And now with the average consumer 3 to 4 generations removed from the farm, it's important to share many messages about Wisconsin's agriculture industry, as it's integral for not only our county, but the entire state. So I encourage you throughout the rest of the year that if you know your farmers, really reach out to them and thank them. They are really important for Manitowoc County and our state, and I'm proud to do my part to represent farmers and agriculturists all across the state. So even if you're not a farmer and you're just passionate about Wisconsin cheese, just like me, really be proud of America's Dairyland, as we have so much to offer, not only with our dairy, but lots of other important aspects. So thank you for inviting me here tonight, and I am honored to receive this. Thank you.
Wow, 40,000 miles, and that's incredible. But thank you, Crystal. I'm sure your parents and your family are very proud of you, and we are too as well. Thank you so much for representing Manitowoc County. And I also like a little shout out to Supervisor Kavanaugh here, who basically arranged this. We appreciate it very much. I know during the fair season it was a little harder to get you here, but we're so happy you could come tonight. So thank you, Bob, once again for setting up as well. All right, next up I have a proclamation honoring 4-H week, and we got Kevin Palmer tonight coming up to accept that. And I think one of the 4-H'ers. Okay. Hello once again. Okay, it's proclamation honoring 4-H week, whereas 4-H is one of the largest youth organizations in the United States, with more than 6 million youth involved in 4-H nationwide. And with 30,106 youth 4-H members and 15,544 adult volunteers in Wisconsin, and 485 youth 4-H members and 174 volunteers in Manitowoc County. And whereas 4-H is where young people explore, learn, and discover in a safe environment and find their true passions, gain confidence, and give back to the community. And whereas 4-H has been helping youth and adults learn, grow, and work together for more than 100 years, and provides a community where young people learn leadership, citizenship, and life skills. And whereas Manitowoc County youth are able to learn individually and together by participating in all kinds of 4-H activities, events, and projects through Manitowoc County University Wisconsin Extension programs. Now therefore, Manitowoc County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer, County Board Chairperson Jim Bry, and the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors hereby declare October 1 through the 7th, 2017 as 4-H week in Manitowoc County, and urge the people of this community to become more aware of this special program and to join in recognizing the unique partnership between Manitowoc County and the University of Wisconsin system. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank the county board for your support for our 4-H program and for UW Extension. Next Tuesday night at 6:30 at Manitowoc County Expo in the Merchants Building, our 24-H clubs will be there for 4-H Family Fun Night, and I'd like to invite you to that. That's our annual open house and recruitment event. It's a lot of fun. Hundreds of people show up for that, and it'd be great to see you come out and enjoy the fun. Tonight I have with me Georgia Zutz. Georgia is one of our 4-H members. She's a Key Award winner, and the Key Award is our top award in 4-H, and youth that earn that award have demonstrated leadership and involvement in their community in 4-H, and Georgia's going to talk with you a little bit about that.
So my name is Georgia Zutz, and I am currently a junior at Valders High School. I'd like to thank you all for coming out and for allowing me to tell you a little bit about my 4-H story. My story started in 2nd grade when we moved into the area and we decided to join the Rockland Sunshine 4-H Club. I started out real small, entering in things like the county talent show and being able to perform at state fair with our club in a skit. I also tried out things like forensics, which is something I'd never heard before, and it was something that I was super passionate about and that I felt I really excelled at. I started out in Manitowoc County, and as I got more into 4-H, I grew statewide and then even nationwide. I've had the opportunity to talk to state senators and representatives about why 4-H is so important to the youth of Wisconsin. And I've had the opportunity to travel down to Alabama for space camp or even to the East Coast on the American Spirit experience. 4-H has influenced a lot of the decisions that have made me who I am today. Going to space camp, it made me realize my passion for STEM and has allowed me to have the courage to join our high school robotics team, which in this past year made it to Worlds down in St. Louis for the first time in 8 years. Entering in forensics also allowed me to join the forensics team at my school, a middle school. And this past year, I received my first gold at state in solo acting. My biggest project so far with 4-H has been the opportunity to be the president of the 4-H ambassadors. The ambassador's goal is to be able to bring 4-H into our community and to teach what it's all about. We have projects at Crime Prevention Days, at the 4-H Family Fun Night, and if you ever see us, we'd really appreciate it if you stop on by and if you share the word about 4-H. Being able to have this position has also inspired me to take positions on the peer leaders and student council at my school. All in all, I really want to thank all of you for your support for 4-H, and I hope that you continue to see what the good effects are that it has in Manitowoc County. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Kevin and Georgia. I think we might have a future political leader here. Looks very impressive. So, thank you very much. You're right, and I say this every year, but just remember, 4-H doesn't just have to be a rural program. I know there's 4-H groups involved with the cities too. So, it's a countywide great event or a great project and great group. So, if you got a chance, become involved. All right, next up, I have a proclamation declaring the month of October Crime Prevention Month. I don't know if the sheriff's here. I don't think, no representative, but that's all right. I'll read the proclamation and we'll make sure we'll get it to the sheriff's department. Whereas the vitality of Manitowoc County, Wisconsin depends on how safe we keep our homes, neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and community. And whereas crime and the fear of crime destroy our trust in others and in civic institutions, threatening Manitowoc County citizens' health, prosperity, and quality of life. And whereas people of all ages must be aware of what they can do to prevent themselves and their families, neighbors, and coworkers from being harmed by crime. And whereas people of all ages must be made aware of the dangers of technology crime and how they can protect themselves from becoming victims. And whereas the personal injury, financial loss, and community deterioration resulting from crime are intolerable and require investment from the whole community. And whereas crime prevention initiatives must include self-protection and security, but they must go on beyond these to promote collaborative efforts to make neighborhoods safer for all ages and to develop positive opportunities for young people. And whereas adults must invest time, resources, and policy support in effective prevention and intervention strategies for youth, and teens must be engaged in driving crime from Manitowoc County. And whereas effective crime prevention programs excel because of partnerships among law enforcement, other government agencies, civic groups, schools, faith communities, businesses, and individuals as they help nurture communal responsibility and instill pride. Now therefore, Manitowoc County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer, County Board Chairman Jim Bryan, and the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim October 2017 as Crime Prevention Month in Manitowoc County, and urge all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, and businesses to invest in the power of prevention and work together to make Manitowoc County a safer, stronger, and more caring community. So, to all those involved, a big round of applause. Very tough job, but I'm very proud of all our sworn officers and volunteers related in Manitowoc County, and we all should be very proud. So I will return up to the dais. Next, we have Personnel Committee. Personnel Director Sharon Cornelius, who's going to give a presentation regarding elected official compensation. Sharon, the podium is yours, and I think you have a presentation for the, okay, so.
I do, and thank you, and good evening, everyone. The Personnel Committee asked me to come here this evening to give you an update on a project that they've been working on for the past several months, and that project is the development of a method that we can use to establish elected official compensation. When we began this project, we first looked to the statutes, and we looked at first the guidance that the statutes gave us about what we can and what we cannot do when we implement elected official compensation. So the statutes that apply to this, and these are to the elected offices of the county clerk, the clerk of court, the treasurer, the register of deeds, the coroner, the executive. The statutes say the board shall, before the earliest time for filing nomination papers for any elective office to be voted on in the county, other than supervisors and circuit court judges, which officer is paid in whole or in part from the county treasury, establish the total annual compensation for services to be paid to the officer exclusive of reimbursements for expenses. The compensation established shall not be increased or diminished during the officer's term and shall remain for ensuing terms unless changed by the board. That's what the statutes say we have to do. The statutes also give us guidance on things that we cannot do. One of the actions that is prohibited by an Attorney General opinion is that the county board may not adopt a step salary plan for elected offices related to the experience of the office holder, as compensation is for the office, not for the officer, and the officer is entitled to the compensation as an incident of the office. Another action that's prohibited by an Attorney General opinion is that a county board may not deny a salary to an elected official during a period of sickness. A board does not have the power to establish sick leave and vacation benefits for elected county officials. And finally, the Attorney General also gives us the guidance that discretionary authority to grant increases to elective county officials based upon performance or length of service may not be delegated to a committee of the county board because a board itself lacks the authority to establish such a compensation scheme. So, having gone through all of that, I tried to summarize this sort of into a few key points for us to consider. The county board must establish the salaries for elected offices prior to the earliest date that nomination papers can be filed. Once that compensation is established, the salary cannot be based on the performance of the elected official or the length of service in office. So those are things that cannot be taken into consideration. Once it's established, the salary is paid to the elected official and cannot be reduced during the term of office. And the salary for the office will remain the same for future terms unless the county board takes some action to change it for future terms. So given that guidance, the Personnel Committee asked me to work with them to come up with some type of a method that we could use to establish the compensation for the elected offices. And they asked me to look at our current job evaluation system that we use for all other non-represented positions. The purpose of any job evaluation system, no matter what system you use, is it gives you a method to systematically evaluate the relative worth of jobs within an organization for the purposes of determining pay. In Manitowoc County, we use the decision band method of job evaluation for all regular non-represented positions. The principles of that decision band method of job evaluation is based on 3 key principles. Decision making is common to all jobs. Every job makes decisions. Because every job makes decisions, that's the common denominator, decision making is the logical basis to use when evaluating and comparing jobs. And job classification should be directly related to responsibility for decision making. Within our pay plan, there is a hierarchy of decision bands, and they go from policy decision bands, which are the highest type of decision. Those are policy decisions, decisions that affect the overall scope of the organization and the overall goals of the organization, and it progresses down to defined decision making, which is at a level A, decisions that are made on the manner and speed of how to perform a defined operation. So we use this decision band method, and every regular non-represented position is assigned a decision band and a subgrade. And this picture shows you our current wage schedule. We have decision bands that go from an A11 all the way up to an F101. The decision band method does apply and is applicable for helping us determine elected official salaries. So the Personnel Committee asked me next to grade and assign a decision band, a subgrade, and a working condition rating using the decision band method of job evaluation. and to forward those results to the Personnel Committee. The results were also shared with all of the current elected officials. The Personnel Committee then, in their discussions, decided that they would be forwarding a recommendation for a change to our county code that would establish this method of establishing the salaries. They would establish the salary recommendations for the elected offices by using the following guidelines. Once the positions had been banded using the decision band method of job evaluation, the recommended salaries would be set at 85% of the wage band for the first year of the term, except for the position of county clerk. The recommendation would be to have the salary for the county clerk be 85% of the wage band plus $1,000. Once that was established for the first year of the term, each subsequent year of the elected official's term would be increased by the average change in the Consumer Price Index over the last 4 years. So the Department of Revenue calculates the Consumer Price Index change. We would calculate the average change over the past 4 years, and that amount or increase or decrease of the Consumer Price Index would be applied to years 2, 3, and 4 to keep the salary current. Because the statutes say that the county board still needs to establish the salaries, though, we would use the method, we would bring a resolution, as we currently do, to the county board with the salary recommendation for the elected offices. The county board then would set the salaries by resolution and in accordance with Wisconsin Statutes 5922 as amended. So the plan was for me to come this evening to present to you the proposed ordinance change and to answer questions you may have, and then to actually bring the proposed ordinance change back to the board in October. I know I went over a lot of information with you. I have copies of the presentation that I'll leave here with the clerk, and I'm sure that they would be glad to give those to you if you would like after the meeting. You may be wondering what this would actually look like, and I do have calculated for those elected offices of the clerk of court, coroner, county clerk, executive, register of deeds, sheriff, and treasurer, both what their grading is, what the current wage band is, when the term ends, what the calculated 85, what they are as a percentage of the wage band currently, and what their salary will be at the end of the term. The implementation guidelines that the Personnel Committee would be using is that if an elective office is currently below 85% of the maximum, the wage band or the wage salary will be increased by a maximum of 5% each year until the 85% mark is met. So there are a few offices that are considerably below the 85%. Those offices would be increased by 5% in each year of the term until they reach the 85% level. For elected offices that are above 85% of the wage band, those would be frozen at the current rate until the increase in the wage schedule catches up to where those elected salaries are currently set. That is my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the board members? I'll start with Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Sharon. A general question, how much deep analysis do you do in that decision matrix in regard to ranking? You're establishing that, but within the ranking, is there a weighting factor within the band like that?
When we are grading the positions are graded according to the highest banded decision. So let's say typically in a job description, there may be 5 job functions, and one of the job functions may be graded as a C and all the rest as a B. The position would be graded in the C band, so it always goes according to the highest banded decision. And then if you are supervising a person within the same decision band, you would not be a C4, you'd be a C5. So we subgraded according to supervisory responsibility as well as the types of decisions in terms of, are they pretty well dictated, what's the impact to the organization, what's the consequence of an error. So those things are all taken into account when we do the grading.
So the subgrading is your weighting factor.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Thank you for
Sure.
the explanation.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Next will be Supervisor Vogel. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon, what are the positions that are under the 85% index at this time?
Sure,
And then I have a second question for you when you finish that one.
sure. Right now, the positions that are below the 85% are the Office of the Coroner. That position is currently at 74% of the maximum. The executive is at 69% of the maximum.
Thank you. And the
Sure.
second question I have is the consumer index rate for the last 4 years. What is that? What, do you have any idea what that is for the past 4 years or not?
I don't have that figure with me. I'd be glad to get it to you, but I don't want to guess what it is. It has been relatively low for the past 4 years. I want to say it's probably less than 2%, but I can get you the exact figure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you Supervisor Vogel. Any other, yes, Supervisor Williams, you are next.
Thank you. Sharon, would it be possible, if this should happen to pass, that if we would choose to, that the amount over what we're currently getting could be done in-house and maybe contributed to the foster parent program in human services?
The board will still retain 100% of the ability to be able to set the salary. What the Personnel Committee is proposing is the creation of a method that they will be using so that when they bring a resolution to you that establishes a salary, you know this is what it's based on. But once that resolution comes to the board, it is the board's purview to do with it as they see fit. So this change would not tie your hands in any way from the county board making it a change.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so you understand, so
Yeah, this is,
personnel comes in with a recommendation for Lois. I'll use Lois because she's not going to be involved in this because her term doesn't come up right now, but for $75,000 with Supervisor Williams, because a super nice guy wants to make that $100,000 a year, we can have that ability to do that.
Thank you.
So,
I'll
thank
take
you.
it.
There was a hint there. Any other questions for Sharon while she's up here? All right, thank you very much, Sharon. We'll look forward to Supervisor Benke and the Personnel Committee bringing that resolution in next. Are we looking at the first October meeting or the last one? Okay, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is myself and the presentation of the proposed 2018 County Board budget. I started this several years ago, and I guess I just like to throw it out there. Generally, there's never usually much changes. I guess first of all, we'll just start with the salary line. I submitted it as is right now. As you know, we're going to be discussing our salary when a resolution and personnel, so that could potentially change. So I'll just leave that. I submitted it at the time as a current salary. You'll see the biggest increase is in the data processing part. It went last year's or this year's budget was $14,442. It's going to be recommended for next, or request for $21,359. Essentially, it's because of this and the upkeep of this project and to keep it running. The licensing agreement, the updates and things like that. So it was a discussion, where should we keep the budget? Should we keep it in the county clerk's office or the county board budget? Regardless, it's going to be there, so it's county board related, so I agreed to definitely just keep it in the county board budget, so that's there. So that's why you see the $7,000 increase. Other than that, the other line items are essentially the same as last year. We're still very holding the line, I guess, for lack of a better term, on budgets for mileage and going to conferences and that. It's not like the good old days, and like some other counties where they send their entire county boards to the WCA convention. There's three, well, we would have slots for 4 of us, but 3 of us are going this year. So that's my proposed budget I submitted to the county executive. Like I said, there's a potential change with the salaries, and we'll see how that goes after this meeting and probably the October 10th one as well. Any questions from the county board to myself and the supervisors on the budget? All right. Thank you very much. Next up is public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand and give your name and address when you come up here, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak. All right, we'll start with Mr. Thyrell. You will be first.
Good Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Tyrell, 4123 County Road B, Manitowoc. I'm here on that proposal for the 0.5% sales tax. I'm kind of against it. We don't need no more taxes in Manitowoc County. We're chasing businesses out all the time. All the big businesses are gone. Small businesses are starting up, but it's not employing the people that we need. The wages aren't here no more. It just showed on the radio, it was on the radio today that home sales were down. Everybody's moving out. When people move out, there's less property tax coming in, so it's not good. So I'm against 5%, 0.5% sales tax. And another thing, Sharon Cornels was talking about wages. I brought up I think 2 meetings ago about the wages. Well, she wants to give increases. I brought up to give 10% decreases because everybody's overpaid. You take Sharon, she's getting $93,000 a year, plus $30,000 in benefits. There is no company that would hire an office girl like her at that wage. I mean, everybody's kind of overpaid in this county, and it's not the workers. The workers aren't overpaid, and the elected officials are not overpaid. It's the management people. You go into that dispatch center, the dispatchers get $46,000 a year, and the supervisor gets $64,000 a year. Well, I think the workers should be paid more fairly than the management people. So that's all I got on that. And then I talked to some supervisors before I stopped in here, and the substation in the town of Franklin, a lot of you supervisors didn't know about it, but some did because the town supervisor knew about it. But Manitowoc County received $671,000 from We Energies. I talked to Mr. Swade, and he says that they went to Silver Lake, which I didn't know. It went to Silver Lake because it's got to be for recreation. So that was a good thing. But it was $671,000 from there, and the town of Franklin got that too, matching funds. And then I'm also, as far as the county board raises, I don't think we need it to give a raise, but I would say maybe go with a raise, but cut the board members down to 13. And give them a little more work and give them a little more money, and maybe we can get something done in this county. I don't think we need 25 members. But to pay them to raise 21%, that's a lot of money to pay them for a couple of meetings when you get mileage and everything. So, I mean, I'm not saying you're not doing your job. I'm just saying that this county cannot afford it. We're chasing people out, so we can't have that no more. And another thing to keep in mind, I just got contacted today from an attorney from Chicago. Stephen Avery is going to be freed. It's not a good situation, but he is going to be freed, and it's going to be stuff on Manitowoc County, so be prepared. And also, she's in the Ricky Hochstetler. He was killed out on County Trunk CR by Billmar. 17 years old, hit and run, unsolved, Manitowoc County. And she's got that case, and that's going to be solved the way it sounds too, and that might be a Manitowoc County employee, so just be aware of what's going on. I talked to Catherine Zellner herself, so she was telling me a lot of stuff, and she said bring it up and warn the county board, just to be on your toes. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's too good to be true, but just be on your toes. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Shug, 2709 Sandy Bay Road, Two Rivers. I'd like to express my concerns over Manitowoc County Ordinance 6.295, prohibiting the feeding of deer in Manitowoc County. I feel the ordinance violates Wisconsin State Statute 29.038, which in regard to the local regulation of wild animals states, a local government unit may enact an ordinance or adopt a regulation, resolution, or other restriction that has an incidental effect on hunting, fishing, or trapping, but only if the primary purpose is to further public health or safety. While I agree that this ordinance likely has as many residents supporting it as it probably does opposing it, I believe the county to be standing behind an ordinance that has no supporting evidence for its need. When Ordinance 6.295 was created, Residents were concerned about CWD and what effects it would have on the Wisconsin deer herd, or how it could affect humans that may come into contact with infected deer. This is currently not the case. The CDC currently reports that there are 0 cases of CWD in humans, and no evidence that CWD can spread from deer to humans. Furthermore, as of September 17, 2017, the Wisconsin DNR has tested 870 wild white-tailed deer from Manitowoc County for CWD with 0 positive results. CWD has never been detected in a wild deer in Manitowoc County. It also seems the public doesn't express any public health concerns caused by baiting, since according to the minutes from the Land Conservation Committee meeting on September 6th, 0 public comments addressed any human health concerns. Ordinance 6.295 also addressed a concern over the baiting of deer leading to the spread of tuberculosis. While this could be a concern, as tuberculosis is a disease that affects humans, the CDC states the direct transmission of tuberculosis from animals to humans through the air is thought to be rare. The Wisconsin DNR also states it does not believe Wisconsin's wild deer population to be infected with tuberculosis. Since 1996, more than 150,000 deer in Wisconsin have been screened for bovine tuberculosis, and no evidence has been found that the disease is present. I believe the Manitowoc County Board to be ethically obligated to review the concerns I have brought forward and to justify how Manitowoc County believes the feeding of deer to be a public health concern or a safety concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, for your comments. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Yes, Maura.
Hi, I have 4 topics I'd like to cover this evening. There's good news. County board meetings are now available on YouTube, so people can watch local government in action at their convenience. Chairman Bry and others worked on this for a long time. You can go to the county website, click on Agendas and Minutes, and then click on the little black film icon. Recent features include presentations on juvenile justice in July and drug diversion and drug court in August. Another feature of interest you can watch online is the Committee of the Whole meeting, August 7th, on the possible 0.5% sales tax increase. The Sheboygan County Board Chairman explained why and how they did it. Manitowoc County hearings are yet to be scheduled. Recently, the Finance Committee Chairman assured the county executive that no resolution could be passed for the 2018 budget. That's very convenient for all elected officials, as no one's re-election in April would be affected because of their support or opposition to the sales tax increase. The local Farm Bureau with 600 members passed a resolution supporting the sales tax increase because they recognize the need for continuous high-quality road maintenance. It affects their work and their ability to earn a living. There are approximately 700 501c3 nonprofit organizations and churches in the county who will be interested to know about a recently passed resolution allowing for automatic payroll deduction of charitable contributions by Manitowoc County employees. There's a specific process to be followed. You can find that at the county website under Government/Resolutions and Ordinance for August 15th. The deadline for application is November 30th, which isn't much time considering the necessary steps in the process and the scheduling of Finance Committee and nonprofit meetings. A report to the community that Supervisor Mike Williams, supported by Supervisor Jim Bauman, attempted to repeal my freedom of speech at a recent annual Human Services public hearing. We used to have an American ethos of, quote, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Chairman Hendrickson overruled Supervisor Williams, and I was allowed to make my remarks regarding the operational structure of the department that doesn't conform to state law or county code. By refusing to seek guidance from the state attorney general, the county executive is remiss in his duty to ensure that the county is operated lawfully. In the previous attorney general's letter, he wrote, and I quote, "This letter does not address the authority of the county to keep the human services director."
Maura, you have about 30 seconds.
Thank you. Director position vacant, since that issue is not the subject of your request. As part of the annual budget hearing, I submitted a compilation of the Human Service Department fund balances from 2005 to 2016. Over that period, it shows a deficit of over $100,000 despite transferring in almost $4 million. As I have mentioned in the past, when the department had a single human service director, there was a surplus. Clearly, what Bob is insisting on doing is neither legal nor cost-effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the county board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak to the county board this evening? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? See none, I'll declare public comment closed. Next up, communications are shown on the agenda. There's no unfinished business from our last meeting, no appointments by the county executive. So we'll move right into committee reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Walk is the vice chair, so we will be speaking with, allowing him to give his report tonight. Thank you. Should be all set with the microphone. Yep, it's on. I got it on. Yep, I got. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Aging and Disability, the ADRC of Manitowoc County and Kewaunee County will be meeting on September 26th at 10 a.m. And prior to that, at 9 a.m., we have the Commission of Aging. And that's my report. And the meeting will be held in Manitowoc.
Any questions for Supervisor Walk? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
We met September 14th. Kath Tees, coordinator for Think Lakeshore Tobacco Prevention Network, presented information of tobacco product point of sale advertising and effect on tobacco addiction in the youth. Amy presented the ordinance that, the resolution that will be upon us tonight for the nonprofit food stands. Since the Department of Agriculture took over some of this, we are not supposed to force people to take the training for the food stand, like for selling the food to make it safe, and we can no longer charge. And the resolution will be coming up at the end of my report. She provided an update for the 2018 budget. Jessica presented the 2018-19 fee schedule. Changes are due to consolidating the temporary restaurant categories, eliminating fees we no longer use, and correcting a water sampling charge. The new schedule will be presented with the budget. The WIC final caseload for July was 1,074 participants, 646 families. In August was 1,064 participants and 632 families. Our next meeting will be October 12th. And now we can go to resolution number 1 and ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code, and I so move.
Supervisor Metzger, seconded by Supervisor Dizak. Discussion on the motion. See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code, repealing Chapter 7.26 for nonprofit food stands.
The ordinance passes 23-1 with Supervisors Nichols voting no.
That is the end of my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. The meeting of the Manitowoc County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council was September 6th. The CJCC coordinator, Mr. Lefta, reported about the drug court and diversion implementation. The first drug court staffing in session took place September 6th. He reported there is a need to arrange broader sober living facilities, but generally the programs are proceeding as expected. A report was presented by Ms. Lidvinia about the juvenile programs and youth intervention network. The county use of juvenile detention for the year is slightly up. There's generally 90 youth receiving services and 10% believed to be involved with drug use. She reminded everyone about the Kids at Hope initiative and reported on success. She defined the dynamics involving juveniles in the criminal justice system. The next meeting date is November 1st. Thank you, and that is my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive Committee, actually, I'll bring it up with Supervisor Banky and Supervisor Giroux. We need to have an Executive Committee meeting. I'm looking probably before the next county board meeting on October 10th. There's one guaranteed item. It's first thing for myself. I think it's been a long time for it. There was a soybean oil spill near Reedsville several months ago, and working with Jamie Olick, our emergency services director, there's a billing process for that to be charged back through hazmat. So under our ordinance, and jump in if I'm going wrong here, the executive committee, along with several members from the, not the long range planning, safety committee as well, with supervisors, the department, and one county board chairperson appointee, which is not, according to you, is not subject to appointment or approval by the board, correct? But anyways, we need to meet to approve those bills so we can send those bills out. So it should be and I might have something else as well, so it could either be a 5 to 10 to a half-hour meeting. So I'm looking at before the next county board meeting on the 10th. So that's right, Alderman Giroux, you will not be here, will you? Okay, I guess like I said, the other one isn't that important either, and it should be a fairly simple process if I understand correctly. So, but we'll still look at that for October 10th. Anything else? Questions, I guess? All right, thank you very much. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Kavanaugh is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board met Wednesday, September 6th at the Expo office. It was noted that the attendance at the fair was pretty close to the last couple of years. Unofficial count, around 41,000, even though the demo derby had to be canceled on Sunday. Also mentioned that tomorrow night, the Market Animal Committee will be having their annual banquet with the parents. We went over a little bit on the theme and the colors for next year's fair. We'll be discussing that further now at the next meeting. Also, Jerry Neiser, our Public Works Director, reported on some of the projects that should be taken care of in 2018. One of the main ones would be the dairy barn. Right at the present time, there's an engineer that's making an assessment of that, and when that's done, we're kind of gonna go from there. We did pass a motion, approved it, that we would send the recommendation to the Public Works Director that we would like to have these projects done during 2018. Also, as far as, the reappointments were mentioned, we have that as part of our part tonight. New board members or reappointments for board members will be coming up. Rummage-a-Rama was discussed. The first one will be on November 11th, and we'll keep the pricing the same as last year. We'll be charging a fee when the people come in, and also there'll be a charge for renting a table. As far as Expo Center Expo events, this coming weekend, St. Francis of Assisi is going to have some special masses out there in the Ice Center on, I guess, Saturday night and Sunday morning. There's next weekend, or weekend after that, October 6th and 7th, there's a super horse pull and I guess that's the last one of the year. That draws a different type of pullers in. They come from greater distance, I guess, from what we were told, and our next meeting then will be Wednesday, October 4th, again at the Expo office. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Once again, and report back to the board. Once again, excellent job at the fair, the Expo board and all the volunteers. And I will always applaud and give salutations to that entire group, because I can just imagine what that would cost with hired help to do all the work that board and everybody else does. So I'll give you a round of applause as well. Not to exclude Supervisor Gallagher and Benke as well as our other county board representatives, but any other questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As a point of information, if anybody can explain to me how soybeans are hazardous, I'd appreciate that at the end of the meeting. I was just kind of surprised that soybeans would be hazardous. Yeah.
I guess it was related to going into the streams. It was hazardous to the fish and the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Interesting. You're right. When I started reading, I thought it was an April Fool's joke at first, but.
A couple things, longer than usual report. We did discuss having our meetings for the sales tax public input sessions. Supervisors on finance, look in your email tomorrow and you'll get the possible dates we could meet between now and early December, and get back to me on your three favorite. These sales tax meetings, we decided there will be three of them, one in the Manitowoc to Rivers area, one we're going to go down to the beautiful Kiel area, and one Cooperstown, Maribel. I'll have to talk to Supervisor Falkowski on a possible location out there, but we spread them around the county, and we'll figure out how that process will go. They will be committee meetings, so we'll need at least a quorum there, but I don't expect all 5 supervisors. It will be great. I don't expect all 5 to be at every meeting that we do. If they are, that's fine. I will be at all 5. So those will be coming up. We'll explain more of that later. We did sell a piece of property, a vacant lot, for a good price to put it back on the tax rolls. We had a discussion about payroll deductions, and a little bit of a problem. One of the groups kind of jumped the gun with one of the supervisors handing out information, and as I was putting together a letter today that we will send to that organization and also the other 2 organizations that in the past have shown interest in payroll deduction, I've already talked to the 3 organizations via phone, and I will be sending a letter to them with the process to get payroll deduction in the mail. That does not limit to those 3 organizations. If anybody else knows any other organization, I am happy to send the letter to them. But the dates that they can hand out information and try to sign people up for payroll deduction is October 16th through December 10th. By December 10th, they need to have all the information to the county needed, and they need to have at least 12 people willing to be part of this payroll deduction for their group. 12 people, they have to have 2 elected county representatives that will do the work within the county for them. Cannot be employees, must be elected county officials. They need to appear at finance before they may start to even off the fact that one group got a head start. At our meeting, finance decided that we will not take anything till October 16th, and we will give the other 2 organizations that have come forward and shown an interest the opportunity to come in and be approved by finance before we let anybody start. We're just trying to treat everybody fair. Of course, they have to have the non-discrimination form into us, and they need to follow a standard information sheet that we developed, information we are going to need to put them into our system for payroll deduction. And one of the problems with the group that got the head start is their form is not standardized in the sense that we are only going to deduct once a month. We are not deducting every paycheck. Their form did not make that clear, so we may have to look at that and how we're going to handle it. But it gets too cumbersome if one group is too, every check, one is every other check. We're just doing everybody once a month. So if you want payroll deduction, it'll be once a month, and that's on the form. So if you'd like a copy of that, I'm happy to email it to all of you. Just shoot me an email on your county email, and I will get that to you. And again, if you know any other organization that wants to possibly participate, if they can get 12 people, we will take them. Are there any questions on that? That's a lot of information, and I don't always speak clear. If you do, I would take those now. Other than that, I have to do classroom wait. That's part of being a teacher. You wait to see if anybody forms a question. Okay. One of the other things that came up, and as part of our finance meetings, we get the jail report every month. And if you remember back to our presentation at the last county board meeting, the supervisor from Human Services came in and gave a presentation on juvenile justice in the county. I spent 2 weeks at Lincoln High School reserve teaching, and two of the gentlemen in my classes are under 18, under 17, and they told me that they were in the county jail for a period of time. So I brought that up at finance when these reports came in, and the executive is working with Human Services and people at the jail to find out why that would happen, why somebody would be there for an extended period of time if they're not 18 years old. So if I get that information back and we get the report, we'll let you know. But as a supervisor, I was a little concerned that we had people underage, at least down to the age of 16, that would be at our county jail for any period of time. So we are looking into that. I don't see any reason why these young people would tell me a story or not tell me the truth. That being said, we have a resolution denying a claim, and I so move that we deny that claim.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Swade. Discussion on the resolution? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution denying claim for Melinda Goki.
Resolution passes 24-0. Anything else, Supervisor Hanson?
That is all I have, Mr. Chairman, except that for those of you wondering why I'm holding my hand up, I fell off my bike last weekend doing a hunger ride for Salvation Army. So it was a good cause, and if you've ever seen your pinky finger look like a curly fry from Hardee's, it's not real fun. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, always descriptive too. Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? All right, Highway Committee, Supervisor Giroux is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Highway Committee met September 12th at 4:30. All supervisors were present, including Commissioner Holson, County Executive Ziegelbauer, County Board Chairman Jim Bry, and two guests from MSA Professional Services, Al Gertz and Karen Klink, were there to give a presentation on MSA. We discussed the 141 Speedway Board of Adjustments, approval of the conditional use permit briefly. We discussed County Trunk Highway R bridge funding. We've received some more money from the local bridge program for that for the 2019 project. We discussed the state of the local road improvement project budget and some of the issues that will be coming before us. We discussed two vacancies that we're going to be filling for the highway maintenance group, and you'll hear about a little bit later from personnel. We discussed the highway engineering technician position, and we looked at some culvert pipe material that the DOT is looking at to extend the life of culvert pipes. We talked about the Highway Department Safety Program and their winter rodeo and safety training sessions, which is quite impressive. went over the overtime report, paid the bills, and the next meeting is October 10th, prior to the county board meeting. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Giroux? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
Mr. Chairman, I have two basically reports. First, on the public hearing of the 2018 Human Services Department budget. Public hearing for the input for the 2018 Human Service Department budget was called to order at 4 p.m. I called the meeting to order and I stated the ground rules for testifying. Basically, we had several people testify. We had a Mrs. Slattery testify, and basically on the input on Medicaid funding. After her, we had, I hope I don't mispronounce these names too bad, but we had a Jean Bigham, and she was with the League of Women Voters and Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition in Healthiest Manitowoc County, gave a report. Maura Yost gave her community report. Heidi Thompson from Pathways to Better Life gave a report. And Sue Beatty gave a report also from Pathways. Basically, after that, we broke into, at 4:24, we concluded that meeting, and we went into our regular Human Services Board meeting. Basically, we had a report on community support for the foster care program, the discussion of an opioid grant award and potential division of an ODA therapist. We had the financial and statistical reports through July 2017, and we had questions and input from members on the status of the Human Services Department. With that, our next meeting will be held next week, Thursday, September 28th at 4:45 p.m. in the Human Services Department. And so I conclude my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Henriksen? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee and Natural Resource and Education Committee. Supervisor Walk is the vice chair who will be chair tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on September 6th, and the hot issue that day at our meeting was the Manitowoc County Ordinance 6.295, feeding deer prohibited. We had a large number of people show up. Everyone that wanted to speak, either way, was allowed to speak. After the public input was closed, there was a motion from one of the members, it was me, and we had 5 members present, and the motion was to rescind the ordinance. And it was seconded, and it failed. So as of now, the 6.295 feeding deer prohibited in Manitowoc County stands. And that's my report, and thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Walk. And before, I'm sure there'll be questions, but before we go on with that, I'm just going to reiterate the statement I made when this whole discussion started, when the state lifted their portion of the ban. After myself and Peter met with representatives from the Sheriff's Department about the ordinance, I agreed that, and I think the best solution was for it to go back to the Land Conservation Committee, because that's where it originated way back in 2005, if I remember correctly, or 2006, but in one of those 2 years. And I said right from the start, as the chair, I would abide by the decision of the Land Conservation Committee. If they decided to repeal the ordinance and bring it to I would gladly welcome it to the county board. But if it was not repealed or decision, or no action was taken at Land Conservation, that's where it was going to remain. But I also encourage the members of that committee to keep looking at this as a process. I mean, so that's why our status is right now. I know I've been asked by several supervisors and asked by several members of the public to bring it directly to the county board, and yeah, as a chairman, I have the authority to do that. I think it would set a very bad precedent, and I'm not going to do that. As I brought up, I used 2 examples. The Highway Committee decides to build a road, and it fails at the committee level, but as chair, I think that road should be built, and I'll bring it to the county board. No. I'll use the salary resolution we're going to be considering for the county board pay. If personnel would have said that, nope, we don't want to do anything, and all of a sudden, well, as chair, I want to bring it to the county board,
then why even have committees? Then we should just meet as a county board, start at 7 a.m. in the morning, and do all the county's business in one day. So we're based on a committee structure. I know some of you disagree with that, but that's the way I guess I interpret it, and that's the way I'm going to do that. But I'll certainly, like I said, I'm certainly not against hunting. I guess I'll be honest with you, a little surprised by the vote. I thought for sure it would have been repealed, and I would have gladly honored that here at the county board level, but it was defeated. So I'm sure they'll keep looking at it. I'm sure other supervisors will have a vested interest in it, but as of now, the ordinance will remain in effect. With that, I'll open up the questions, I guess, for Supervisor Walk, and we'll start with Supervisor Dizak.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple concerns with first of all, the way the committee voted on it. It stems from a lot of other issues. There was no discussion on possible conflict between the county ordinance and the state law. The state law has wording in it that says the county can't pass an additional law or an ordinance unless it affects public health and safety. And I don't believe either the Board of Health or the Human Services was even asked about whether it has any effect on that. We heard from a young man today about some statistics that he has that it does not affect public health. So that's one issue that I don't believe the committee even discussed that. It does seem like there's an even split pro and con on the issue. And within that split, I think it's important to bring it to the county board so everybody gets a say instead of, in this case, it was basically 3 people. There's 5 people that voted, it went down 3-2 with 2 members missing. And I think that's not a good representation of the county on an issue that seems to be building a little momentum. Another issue I have is there was no discussion on confusion being caused amongst the public. The state says you can bait. The county says you can't. I've been asked, can you bait in the state park in Point Beach? I don't know. I'm assuming the county laws apply to that area, but I don't know. It's not just a hunting issue either. It's people bait deer just to have them come in their yard. So it's not just hunting. And the wording is kind of weird because you can't dump a little bit of corn, but you can plant a row of corn in your backyard, and that's fine because it's natural. So it's just confusing. Let's see. I did write this stuff down. The confusion part is another issue. I had wrote it down twice, as a matter of fact, about how it's confusing our constituents to what is the law. And it's even as confusing at the state level, because if you look online at the hunting regulations, it says you can bait in Manitowoc County. So if a person is looking at his hunting regulations online, it says you can bait. They may not even be aware of the county ordinance, probably are not aware of the ordinance. If you look at the printed edition of the hunting regulations, seeing how it was printed before the ruling was made from the state, it says you can't bait in Manitowoc County. So there's a lot of confusion out there, and I think having an additional ordinance at the county level does nothing except confuse the average Joe out there just trying to be legal, whether it's attracting deer to the yard or trying to hunt. And that's, I think, with that being said, I think it's very important if the committee would take it up again, discuss those issues, and look at just bringing the thing to the full county board for future consideration. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Before I go on to the next speaker, I'm going to have Corporation Counsel Peter Conrad explain why his interpretation, which I have the full faith in him as our Corporation Counsel, and why our ordinance is valid, even though the state rescinded their portion. Was that too broad?
First of all, I think it's important to understand what the state did and what the state law did. The state law didn't impact deer baiting. What the state law said was that the DNR couldn't promulgate a rule that allowed baiting for more than 2 years. That's all the state did. So the state didn't say statewide, you can't pass a law saying there is no baiting. What our law says is that you cannot feed deer under these particular circumstances. The statute that's being cited to, as far as saying that the county may or may not be able to regulate deer baiting. I don't know that that's particularly applicable. It does refer to incidental effect on hunting. First of all, you'd have to make a determination as to whether or not allowing deer feeding actually has an incidental effect on hunting. That's particularly important because that's later defined in the state administrative codes. And when you start looking at the administrative codes, what they're talking about mostly in those situations has to do with where you can shoot, how you can shoot, and those types of things. So I'm not sure that that's directly on point. As to the issue of whether or not deer baiting relates to health and safety, what I would point out is under our statutory home rule authority, the county's authority granted to us from the state to pass laws to begin with, all of our laws have to be based on health, safety, general welfare. Otherwise, they're almost by definition arbitrary and capricious. So our whole ability to pass laws have to relate to health, have to relate to safety or the general welfare. That's inherent in our authority to pass these laws to begin with. Finally, as to the considerations of whether or not this is a safety issue or not, what I would say is, as a general rule of thumb, anytime a legislative body passes a rule, passes an ordinance, passes a statute or a code, it's afforded a presumption of correctness. And the reason is because the way the courts work is they just presume, they have to presume that government bodies, when they do these things, have careful deliberations and make these decisions as part of their process. The fact that there may be counter reasoning, counter evidence is not in and of itself enough to say this is not a valid rule, this is not a valid code, law, statute, code, anything of that nature. This ordinance wasn't passed in 2017. This ordinance was passed in, I think it was 2004 or 2005. So we have to go back to that time and look at the time that was passed. Quite frankly, nothing has changed from the time that ordinance was passed till today. The fact that the DNR's authority to promulgate a rule, an administrative code that can't prohibit baiting for more than 2 years is not at all impactful on Manitowoc's county authority to regulate any activity within its county. As to the fact that the DNR is not saying that you can't bait anymore, I would point to probably the majority of our ordinances which are county related. There are hundreds of our ordinances that only we enforce, that only we pass. You're not going to find them in state rules, you're not going to find them in state regulations. The reason for that is because the county, in and of itself, as a body, has decided this is a policy that we want to have. Whether or not the county, as a body, wants to have this ordinance, that's a policy decision. But as far as its legal authority to do that, I feel like we're on very firm ground to do that.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. We can continue on with questions. Supervisor Falkowski, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A general question of sorts. When Supervisor Dizek was mentioning that the full committee didn't meet for the consideration of this issue, is it within our capacity as the board to ask for reconsideration to the committee under full committee membership?
No.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Vogel, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The sentiment of Supervisor Dizek, I echo 100%, so I won't need to go into a lengthy discussion on that. However, I do want to say that regarding this, I know there's pros and cons. Even though it's not my district, I've been taking a lot of phone calls from hunters, residents that live in Manitowoc County, but are very close to Brown County. Brown County does not have baiting. As far as I know, they never did. And it's causing a lot of hardship with Manitowoc County residents in those areas. I would strongly encourage the county board chair to bring this to the full county board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And just to requite, did I understand you correctly about Brown County? Brown County does not currently have a ban, or they do have a ban on feeding?
They do not have a ban on
Okay,
baiting, and as far as I know, they never did.
Okay, I thought you said it the other way around, but okay.
There's a lot of residents like that live in Manitowoc County, close to Brown
Right,
County,
and
and it's causing a lot of controversy.
And I've been getting a lot of the same phone calls. I'm not, as I mentioned from the start, and I think Supervisor Dizek said it as well, this is definitely an issue that is almost right down the middle. I mean, there is pro and con, and like I said, I don't have any skin in the game. I have nothing against hunting. I have nothing against deer hunting or anything in general. I think it's a great tradition. I think it's necessary for the population to control the herd and stuff like that. But I guess regards to, I still stand by the committee's decision. Supervisor Giroux, you are next.
I don't have a question for Supervisor Walk, but I was at that hearing. The Fish and Game people were there in strength and to the man almost do not want baiting. I was at the Maribel Sportsman's Club a week ago Monday night, and there were a lot of people talking about this on both sides. Sheriff Herman was at that meeting as well and discussed the fact that the DNR wouldn't be enforcing this anymore, and that for them to investigate there would be they would need a complaint, and then if they couldn't see the bait from the road, they would likely have to get a warrant to go into the property to investigate it and then take whatever steps would be necessary. And in my discussion at that night then, and then at this meeting of the Maribel Sports Club, and there were a lot of people there, I don't think they realized what this could do as far as, more work for the sheriff's department. And I think the sheriff's department's already pretty busy with a lot of other things. And I'm a deer hunter. I do bait in Door County where you can, and I don't here where you can't. And the DNR guy did say that they had like 75 issues of baiting last time. So I'm just saying that. And when this was brought up, it was like everybody stepped back and thought, no, we didn't realize this is on the sheriff's department now. And so do we want the sheriff, chasing 2.5 gallons of corn and apples in some neighbor's field, when they already have enough on their plate? And I think not, but I would say, again, this will be up to the committee as it stands, so thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Giroux. Any other questions or comments for the report? Supervisor Mink.
I'll keep this very short. I know we want to move on with the meeting, but I was one of those supervisors that were not able to go. I was on a live fire exercise with the military. I would really actually appreciate this get brought back up in the community. My main purpose on that is no matter how you feel about baiting or hunting, this appears to be an unenforceable law, and we have enough unenforceable laws. That's all.
Thank you, Supervisor Mink. Any other questions or comments for the Supervisor Walk? All right, thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on September 5th with a number of different resolutions coming forward. We'll start out with the number 3, resolution amending the employee policy manual to add 8.12 per in 3 based on the Wisconsin Administrative Code. I so move, Mr. Chair.
So motion by Supervisor Benke, seconded by Supervisor Marsh to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution amending Employee Policy Manual to add Chapter 8.12, Parent 3.
Resolution passes 24-0.
Moving on to number 4, resolution repealing and recreating Employee Policy Manual, Chapter 20, in reference to retirement. I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Benke, seconded by Supervisor Baumann.
This is the item that I had talked about last month. It's pretty self-explanatory, gives a process for retirement. I think it's well worth the effort, and hope for your support.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution repealing and recreating Employee Policy Manual, Chapter 20, for retirement.
Resolution passes 24-0.
Moving on to resolution number 5. Before I get into resolution number 5, I just want to mention that if you do have questions on what Sharon talked about tonight, it is somewhat, I mean, some of the supervisors weren't here when we implemented that employee program. If you do have questions on that prior to the budget, please call her, ask your questions. If you don't understand it, meet with her. Use her as a resource. She has a lot of information. She went through a lot of information tonight. So if you're not quite sure, we don't want to spend all night long deliberating this program during the budget process. If possible, if you could get some of your questions answered prior to that meeting, that would be appreciated. So take that opportunity if you're not quite sure on how this program is going to work for elected officials. So moving on to number 5, resolution establishing compensation for county board supervisors for the term beginning April 2018. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Benke. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Volk. Discussion on the resolution. And before Supervisor Benke talks, I guess I just want to quickly discuss a little bit as chair. Discussion of salaries for elected officials, especially the local ones, has always been, I'm going to say, like a taboo subject. For the last several years, several of you have approached, and other supervisors on here approached about a potential pay raise. And I said, well, you know, we certainly look at that, and I know personnel every 2 years does look at it. This year, I guess as the leader, and I guess I'll take the hits or the bullets or whatever you want to call it, but I feel it's my duty as your elected representative to discuss this, at least bring it up. And I used the example last year at the city council level where as council president, I introduced a salary increase as well for the terms, and ours are split terms there. There's half the council is elected every 2 years and the other half, or I should say every other year. So in that case, as I did on an off year for myself, so it wouldn't even have affected my salary, so I thought that would have been a perfect thing. And you just have to remember too is that we're not voting on salary increases for this current county board. We're voting on potential salary increases for the next county board. You know, potentially 0 to all of us could be gone from that county board. It's, you know, we're elected to that position. So there's no I guess, bad meaning or an intent to do this. It's just I thought it's a reasonable request to do this. We have the comparables that were sent out. I know we are down at the bottom of the list regards that, but we're not doing it for the money. And with the letter that I sent out, and I'll keep things civil, I'll take the high road, but I do want to read one paragraph because of my letter that was sent out after the one that the county executive sent out to all of you. And I'll use the notation. It's, you all have the best, this is the county executive's part of his letter. You all have the best part-time job imaginable. For $250 every month, and mileage reimbursements too, you spend 3 to 6 hours a month in meetings, maybe less, and all the prestige of serving the public you can handle. That's a pretty good part-time job. It doesn't merit a change in salaries. Well, this was my response, if you're calling, and I just wanted it out there too because it's, I did send this to the media after the county executive sent his letter to the media. This is the statement that makes me the most upset. I don't think any of us consider being a county board supervisor a part-time job. In fact, I think many of us do not even consider it a job, but rather a chance to serve. I consider it an honor and a privilege to serve my constituents. As for 3 to 6 hours a month, how about a day? Being a county board supervisor is not just going to a couple of meetings every month. It is going to meetings for committees you are not a member of. It is going to your city council, village board, or town board meeting once a month. It is attending functions that showcase the new businesses in our county. It is writing letters, making phone calls, and replying to emails. It is going out and soliciting prizes and even donating gifts paid for by you for the hardworking foster parents of our county. It is using up a week's vacation from your full-time job to volunteer at the county fair for 15-hour days. It is giving up one's ego and getting wet in the dunk tank so that money can be raised for Children's Hospital. I could go on and on. Part-time job, it's an honor and a privilege. So with that, I will turn it back over to the chair. Okay, yes.
It's on the floor.
Supervisor Baumann, you were next on the speaker's list. To the resolution.
I couldn't support, although I did support bringing this before the board, I couldn't support the full amount that was being proposed. Although people have to realize that the county board hasn't had an increase in anything except the mileage since 2004. I would support maybe doing half of it, and with the understanding here that if we don't show up for a county board meeting, we don't get paid the $100. So to me, I can't vote on the full package, but I could do it on the half package.
Thank you, Supervisor Baumann. Supervisor Zimmer, you are next.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask you a question. Did you say you released this letter to the press, to the public?
Yes, I did after I found out that the county executive sent his letter to the press.
Okay, well, because I find the particular paragraph that you just reread, or that you just read, I find most disturbing, Mr. Chairman, because in that paragraph, you cited various activities which have absolutely nothing to do with county supervisor responsibilities. However, your letter includes the activities you cited, soliciting prizes and donating gifts for foster parents, using vacation time from a full-time job in order to volunteer at this county fair, getting wet in a dunk tank as part of a charity drive, et cetera, et cetera. You prefaced this laundry list of activities with the words, being a county supervisor is not just going to a couple of meetings a month, as if the laundry list of items, some of which I read, were a part of supervisor responsibilities and should be considered when determining whether there should be an increase in county supervisor remuneration. And I think by releasing that to the public, you mislead the public, because none of those activities are other than charitable activities. They're not part of your even taking vacation time to serve at the county fair is not part of your activities, any of us, any of our activities as county supervisors. These are volunteer activities. Yes, they are. You don't have to participate in those. And so I think the public is misled, especially since you released this letter to them. I certainly won't vote for this proposal. I may have to vote on that foolish 0.5% county sales tax proposal, which we may be unfortunate enough to.
Supervisor Zimmer, stick to the
Supervisor
Zimmer, stick to the resolution.
I am sticking to the resolution.
Sales tax has nothing to do with the resolution.
Since we might have to vote on that proposal, I think it would be hypocritical for me to support a county supervisor pay raise tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Henriksen, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, as you stated, this is not for like basically this board right here, but it's for the future board. And I look at it as saying it's maybe this is something just enough to get other people interested. Because you didn't only know exactly what we make. Some people out there had this, grandest idea that we make a lot of money. And, I go back to a radio station owner. It says, you don't do it for the money, you do it because you serve the people. But maybe this might be a little bit inspiration for somebody else to run for a county board supervisor. Maybe even run for a city position. Either be an alderman or, whatever. But we need more people involved. Thank you. I will support this.
Thank you, Supervisor Henriksen. Supervisor Falkowski, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate the effort that was involved with trying to calculate, I guess, our compensation in regard to what we actually perform for our constituents. But it became apparent to me that we are not employees because we're hybrids. We're quite honestly not covered as an employee. So therefore, compensation and methods for figuring out compensation gets a little bit muddled. But I realized I was probably more equivalent to being a contractor, and I'm contracted to my constituents, and that's the 19th district. So when I get an appeal from them that I should be compensated more, I probably would resonate more. I feel not quite as sure to involve myself in my own decision for compensation. So I probably will, I know I will not support this resolution. But in some of the narratives, it seemed like there was an effort to make attendance better and more involvement with committee stuff in general. And I was just wondering if someone like Alicia could maybe report quarterly how people are attending these meetings to justify to their constituents their activities and their justification for their compensation. But in a general sense, I will not support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski, but I don't know if you should have gotten it last week, because actually the county clerk sends out quarterly, I guess, meeting attendance for the standing committees of the county board, so you do get that.
I do that, but my constituents.
I'm sorry, I got turned you on, okay.
Oh, that-
There you are, you're back on, okay.
I think I was trying to reference that although I get that, and unless I publish that or have some mechanism to distribute that, I think the media would be more appropriate to actually demonstrate the abilities that our board is actually attending to their duties and responsibilities.
I guess I don't know this time if you've sent it to the press, but I know in the past it has been sent to the press, but we have no control over what they print or say on the radio. But I certainly agree with you. It would be great to release it to wherever we can. You know, Facebook, I mean, that seems to be the greatest thing now is on social media is to get things out. So, but I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. Supervisor Metzger, you were next to the resolution.
Yes. I wasn't sure whether to support this or not. It doesn't matter to me either way, which way it really goes. I did support it in personnel. But I would like to talk about, I am on Lakeshore CAP, and we talk about how, yeah, it is our choice to do fundraisers and it is our choice not to. But with Lakeshore CAP, if you don't help with getting door prizes and help with the fundraisers, which I helped with 3 of them in the last 2 months, that is how they get a lot of their funding, with fundraising money and grant money. I also get called in when problems arise. I am the president of the board, and you know, it is a very nice board, and it's a very nice company. I mean, Lakeshore CAP does a lot for the community. Right now, we're doing interviews for CEOs, so you know, it is a lot of work. You know, and I think a lot of times and other people have other committees that I don't get to see what they all do, and maybe it's more detailed that there's a lot of things that they do as well. I'm sort of leaning towards supporting this because when it comes down to the other elected officials, you know, in a couple months, there's one position that is going to be 19,000 starting with the new term and ending with 23,000 more. So that, you know, it's just kind of contradicting if this, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Metzger. Supervisor Hanson, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regardless of how this works, I will run for county board in April. I don't think anybody sitting here does this for the monetary reward. We all got into this for service. I will disagree with Supervisor Zimmer on the idea that what was in that letter is not being a county board supervisor. It may be old-fashioned in today's world of politics, but I truly believe who we are sitting in these chairs is important, that we are honorable, that we do things for groups in this community. When somebody calls and says, hey, Biff, will you come and do this? I represent this board. I represent the 25 of you sitting here and county employees, because I try not to do anything that will embarrass this seat and your seats and the people who work for this county. So the idea that if I do something that isn't in my job description as a supervisor is wrong, I can't disagree with that enough. Everything we do is part of who we are sitting here. Every one of us has a job, and we usually do more than we're asked. We do more what's in our job description. At every level of employability and employment and job, we all do more than we're asked. I know people sitting on this board give up family time. I know they give up work time. I know they give up compensation to do things for the county. That's part about being a supervisor. That's why you ran, because you cared. I've been here a long time. Yeah, I haven't got a raise till 2004. Is that really that important to me? No. But it's nice to know once in a while that maybe some people are thinking you deserve a little more. Is it a big increase? Yeah, but we haven't had an increase since 2004. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, as we sit here, I hate to say this, but the idea of service is becoming extinct. How many people here had somebody run against you in the last election? How many people want this position? And they're not doing it for the money. Will this make more people run? No. But you got to be a little special to sit here. Special in the way that you have to be able to talk to your kids when somebody calls up a radio station and lies about you, or writes a letter to the editor and lies about you. You got to be able to talk to your kids and go, hey, that's part of this job. People don't always tell the truth anymore. They tell untruths, alternative facts. I ran because I do my best for the people in this district. The district I'm sitting in tonight. I ran because I want to do service for those people. Sometimes I screw up. Sometimes I vote the wrong way. But I do my best. I will support this tonight because I support you. And I support everybody in the county that works for the county, that deals with those issues, that has to make those hard choices. It's not a lot of money. It's more money, yes. But it's not when you consider it was 2004. And I'm not even sure in 2004, I was trying to remember this, Chairman, maybe you can help me. I think the raise in 2004 was moving money around because at that time the county board chair got a lot of money because we did not have a county executive or somebody in charge of the county. And I thought we just moved funds around and took the extra, took a little away from there and gave everybody a little more. But my brain is failing me. Maybe that's not what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not voting on your raise. You're voting on whoever sits in that seat. And if the people sitting in the 6th district don't like the fact that I voted for a pay increase, they won't vote for me. And that's okay. But I'll be able to say, if I don't get that vote, that I did my job and I represented them, not only at this 3 to 6 hours a month that we meet, but I represented them every day, all the time, in who I was because I was a county board supervisor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. Supervisor Giroux, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be supporting this resolution. I don't think anybody here serves for the money. I don't think anybody would quit if we got a 22% pay cut versus a 22% increase. The fact that we get paid at all amazes me sometimes. I think everybody is here because of the service. They want to do what we're doing. There's a component of kind of joy from being in this organization, of doing something that you feel is necessary and is necessary for government. I have a degree in political science that I've never made a living of, but this is certainly, I think, a part of that. And because I don't think in all of our cases that the money is consequential, I don't see any reason to do it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Giroux. Any other discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Zimmer.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a correction to something Supervisor Hanson said that I said. He said something about things I do not in my job description are wrong, as if I said such a thing. I never said anything like that. Under no circumstances did I ever say that things that we do that aren't in our supervisory job description are wrong. That was incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Falkowski.
Just so this doesn't devolve into episode of Manitowoc Minute, I called a question.
Is there an objection? I object, so the discussion continues on. Any other discussion on the motion? Any amendments or anything? Supervisor Marsh, you wanted to speak?
Okay, we were talking about the resolution is for, as on our table. I'm struggling with this because I do this job because I enjoy it. I feel like I'm helping people. I do have a comment about, I remember many, many years ago, I was told, just remember, this is a 24/7 job. Every day you are doing something for somebody and you are affecting everybody. So sometimes when I guess when I read the county exec's letter, probably should not have, because it made me feel much less of a person, and that isn't, we all do our best. We wouldn't be here if we didn't care about our county. Yes, it would be nice to have a salary increase. I do believe, since I've been on the board, and I don't know if it was the first year I was on the board, we did take a cut in pay. And I think that the 2004 was getting it back to the level where it had been, if I'm not mistaken. But then, of course, Supervisor Hanson, my mind is like that too. I can't support the full amount. I would like to see a modification of that. So how do I go about doing that?
You could make a motion, I guess, to any of the amounts or anything you'd like to do in that resolution.
So it would be an amendment, you said?
Correct. Make a motion to amend, yes.
I make a motion to amend. That the personnel, or that the salary of the county board supervisors be modified to be paid $166 $1,091.67. Or I mean that's the, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at this correctly. Okay, let's see. Instead of where it says $191.67, it would be $166.67. And that line 18. And then that would be changed from 3,600 to 3,300. And then line 20, or line 21 would be changed to $291.67. And line 23 would be changed to $4,800.
So that's your motion. Is there a second to that motion to the amend?
Oh, and also on the bottom,
What, there's, wait, hold
Oh,
on
I
one
don't-
second here, I apologize. Right.
Yeah.
I guess, before, I guess it's obviously your consideration to continue, but those amounts also have to be changed towards, the county board supervisors here, those amounts? 'Cause right
Down
now
on
it
the bottom,
It currently says
yes.
190, and then the bottom, the fiscal income pack. Essentially, what you're getting at is, this is, instead of having a $600 per year potential raise, it's a $300 potential year raise. Correct? Is that-
Correct.
Okay. So, without putting words in your mouth, and I hope I'm not, what you're trying to say then too is, on line 32, you would also change that amount to 166.67?
correct, and on line 35, that would be $291.67.
Okay.
And then is that what you needed?
I think so. So there is a motion to amend this resolution, essentially those amounts made. Is there a second to the motion? There is no okay, seconded by Supervisor Hoffman. So discussion on the motion to amend, essentially what cuts the potential raise in half from $600 to $300. Oh, he has to press that. Supervisor Hoffman, can you press the second, I guess, just so it's in the record? Yes. Thank you very much. So discussion on the motion to amend to change the amount to essentially $300 per year. Seeing no discussion, are we all set with, everybody understands the motion? Okay, so seeing no discussion on that motion to amend, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the amendment for the resolution establishing compensation for county board supervisors for the term beginning April 2018.
The motion to amend passes 13 to 11 with Supervisors Holschbach, Metzger, Nassep, Williams, Gauger, Zimmer, Walk, Kavanaugh, Falkowski, Jerol, and Henriksen voting no. So now the main motion is the salary as amended, so we're back, that is the main motion. Any discussion on the amended version now? Are we all set? Okay, you all set? I'm waiting for that printout, that's why it's okay. So, well, no, it's the main motion, but it says as amended now with those new amounts. So Supervisor Swade, you, to the new amended version.
Yes. Looking at it, I haven't been on this board for many years, but if in 2004, $250 was the proper salary for this position, what would it be in real dollars this year, 2017? I don't think that $300 will cover what the cost of living or would be in real dollars as we do figure everything else when we do our budgeting. Also, you got to remember that this raise probably will go for another 10 years or more, as it has in the past. So we're talking over 20 years from 2004 until 2019 or 29, that this amount of money would be spread over. You know, we talk 21%, we say 21%, that's a shock item. But if you divided that 21% by 29 years, you're getting close to only 0.5% a year in real dollars, what anybody in this chair is getting. And I have to agree with some of the statements that have been made that maybe we could get somebody to run. I believe there was 2 districts this last election, and my district in 25th, where nobody was going to run. So when I found out that nobody was running after the fact, I signed up as a write-in. Just for the fact that Supervisor Hanson said, I wanted to have somebody represent our district and use it for the benefit of the district and for the whole county board. You know, we talk about bonding or whatever, and we don't. There's a big number, but we don't use that big number. We say, oh, it's spread over 30 years, so it's only this small number. Let's use that same rationale in this one here, where 21% is a shock item, but in reality, spread over the period of time that this raise maybe would cover is only going to be between 0.5% and 0.75%. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Swade. Any other discussion on the resolution as amended? Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any logic why we don't present this to the electorate as a normal election process to address whether, is it statutory that they can't vote on our compensation or agree to our ideas of what our compensation is? Then,
as far as I know, and Peter is collaborating, there is nothing statutorily that we couldn't do that, I guess, but
advisory.
I guess it's never been done before, but obviously a referendum it has a cost to it and stuff. I guess, you know, from my own opinion, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I guess, you know, we're elected as part of our duties, and one of those decisions is to make decisions on salaries. Sometimes, like I said, you gotta take the bullet, I guess, and I guess that's why I brought it up. And I wouldn't say take a bullet, I guess I'm just showing as leader, we have to discuss these issues once in a while, you know. We have to take stands, and I know the voodoo one is a potential on salaries, and it's a tough one, but look what this county board has done in the last term. You know, we took a hard stand on Meyer, and it's still angering a lot of people out there, but it's, hopefully, I think it's gonna be the best for the county. But this county board took the stand, remember that. There was a letter by the county executive that said we should pull out of it. I countered right away that this was gonna continue on. So we are doing our jobs, so.
Yeah, I agree that, you know, from a leadership standpoint, we do have to take positions, and sometimes they are difficult. But from the standpoint of our value is with the electorates. They're the ones that, those constituents determine our values, whether they run for an office or not. If they're contemplating any disagreement with our decision or how we come to that conclusion, I feel a lot better if they are congruent with my belief that I'm performing for their services more so than trying to justify it within a budgetary maneuver per se. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Any other discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Zimmer.
I think we should vote no. I will certainly vote no on this. As a demonstration of physical austerity, we'd set the example and be congratulated by the taxpayers who are consistently beleaguered by elected officials who have no compunction about spending the taxpayer dollars. So let's set an example of fiscal austerity and vote no. Our constituents will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Holschbach.
I don't feel very strongly on this issue, and didn't know the Personnel Committee was going to be considering it, but I definitely understand the rationale they were working with, the comparables, the number of years since the raise. Supervisor Swade, who serves on the Finance Committee with me, I have great respect for, and I agree with a lot of what he said. And the reason I voted against the Supervisor Marish amendment was because I thought we were going to continue to discuss the original proposal. So, and I would just say, in terms of this fiscal, responsibility lecture, where is that attitude when it comes to taking care of our highways? Do you know what kind of backlog we have?
He has no idea what you're talking about.
No, he doesn't. So I think the county executive and Supervisor Zimmer kind of take the easy way out, and it looks great in the papers to say, we don't deserve a raise, but we're spending this kind of time discussing this issue and the dollars associated with this issue, which pale in comparison to the backlog in improvements and repairs to our county roads. We're far behind. And so it's just kind of disappointing that some people are raising this kind of flag of fiscal responsibility about an issue like this, but they totally ignore that we're not taking care of our county roads.
Thank you, Supervisor Holzbach. Any other discussion? Oh, sorry, Supervisor Dizak, you're yellow.
Chair, Supervisor Holzbach just keyed me into a thought. Honest to God, I truly don't know which way I'm going to go, and I probably won't know until I actually push the button. The thing that really gets me, and it's the road thing, and it's so healthy when you really think about it. The debate we're having on a couple dollars. I mean, this isn't a lot of money at all. Well, you can throw percentages out and make it sound bad, but it's only a couple dollars. But the fact that we're discussing and having this kind of energy towards such a small amount of money, and when you talk about roads, I read an article a few weeks ago about Lincoln Avenue in Two Rivers, where there were people complaining about the cute little red bricks or crisscrosses, and the answer to that was, well, it's a $4 million or whatever it is project, and it's only $17,000. Well, guess what? It's $17,000. The fact that they can blow that off like that, and we're spending this much time discussing this, I think it's a healthy discussion, and I appreciate everybody's thought processes, because we need to make sure we put money in. It's only $17,000. That's the thought process government's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Supervisor Zimmer.
Mr. Chairman, I have to respond to what Mr. Supervisor Holschbach said. His tossing in this issue of road repair and maintenance is what is popularly known as a red herring. All right? It's designed to distract us from the issue at hand. And it's quite a cheap debate trick. Thank you.